In this video, I'm going to walk you through the Lab 6 assignment. All right, so go ahead and open up Revit, and the first thing we want to do is go up here to where it says Models and click on the New button. When this dialog box pops up, go ahead where it says the template file and click the drop down, and you want to select the architectural template. Again, if you do not have these options here, please refer to the Revit introduction video, and in that video I cover how to get these options. So make sure you refer to that and install the necessary files because it's really important that you have these. All right, but assuming that we do have these, go ahead and click on the architectural template and then make sure that create new project is checked and then click on OK. All right, so once we do that, we are now in a blank project file. All right, and you can see that we are in our level 1 floor plan view, okay? As noted by this tab up here and also over here in our project browser, we can see that level 1 under floor plan is highlighted. For this lab assignment, what we are going to basically do is bring in an AutoCAD drawing of a floor plan of the first level of a house, and we are basically going to convert that from an AutoCAD drawing over to a Revit drawing, okay? So there is a drawing file that I have attached to this video. Go ahead and download it, and we are going to be inserting that into our Revit file, okay? So that file is called Lab 6 CAD Underlay. So go ahead and download that file, and then once that is downloaded, go to your Insert tab, and then we want to go to Import CAD, all right? With the Import CAD button selected, now we want to navigate to wherever we save that file. Okay, and what you want to do here is make sure that everything is set to the default settings. That should be fine, and then once you have that set, just click on Open, and that is going to insert the CAD file into our viewport, okay? Now with it inserted into our viewport, what I'm going to do is modify the colors, okay? So you can see now if I zoom in here and look at this CAD drawing, the colors basically are carried over from AutoCAD. So whatever the layer assignments were in AutoCAD, that's basically come over, and you can see now we just have all those colors, and the problem is that can make it like a little bit hard to work with this white background. So I'm going to show you now how we can go about changing that, okay? To modify the visibility of elements inside of Revit, we have this thing called our visibility graphics dialog settings, okay? So to access our visibility settings, what you want to do is either type VV, so V as in Victor, twice on your keyboard, or VG. So VG is short for visibility graphics, but I like to just go VV, hit that 2 times, and that brings up this dialog window where we can modify how different components of the drawing look. Okay, so this is pretty complicated, and this is something that you're going to use quite a bit inside of Revit. This essentially replaces AutoCAD layers, okay? So think of this as your AutoCAD layers. We don't have layers inside of Revit, but we do have individual visibility settings for all the different objects within our drawing, okay? So you can see as we go down through here, we have all kinds of things like roofs, rooms, walls, doors, so on. Any sort of type of building element is going to have its own category, and we can manually override and change how those elements look. Okay, up here at the top of this window, you can see we have 5 different tabs. Right now we're in model categories. What we want to be in is this one that says imported categories. Okay, so what we did is basically import an external CAD file into our Revit project, okay? So that's where we're going to find the settings to override the CAD drawing. All right, so when we click on imported categories, we can see here that we have this. You can see this is our actual drawing, so lab6 CAD underlay.dwg, and here are all of our AutoCAD layers. All right, so we have, for example, looks like 6 different layers inside of this CAD drawing, and we can do things like turn them on and off. So if I were to uncheck, like for example, the wall and click apply, we can start turning different components of the CAD drawing on and off. And you can see in my background how my walls are, they disappeared now. So I'm going to turn those back on. But basically what I want to do is change all of the colors inside of this CAD drawing to be one color that will for one, easier to read, but it's just going to be a single color that we'll have in our background that we can easily draw on top of. Okay, so what I want to do now is click on right here at the Lab6 CAD underlay. I'm going to hold shift and then I'm going to click on the bottommost layer. Okay, so eyewall here, and that's going to select all of these at the same time. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to override all of these layers to be the exact same, and I like to just have everything selected to make sure that it all goes through and I can just do it in one take. Okay, so now with that all selected, I want to click on the override button. It's right here next to this eyewall layer. All right, you can click on the override button on any of the layers, but I'm going to click on the one next to eyewall. It's all going to do the same thing. All right, so here what we're going to be overriding is the color of the lines. Okay, so I'm going to click on color. And what I like to do now is, this is optional. You can set this to any color you like. I like to set to red. Okay, it's personal preference. Anytime I bring in a CAD drawing, I just set it to red. If you have another color you like, you can change it to anything else. I would stay away from like yellows because you want something that's going to be easy to read on a white background. Don't do black though. Okay, black is going to be difficult because all of the Revit elements we'll be drawing ourselves are black, and so you want to differentiate the two. So I like to stick with red. That's what I recommend. Click on OK, and then click on OK again, and then click on Apply. And you'll see once we click on that, we have now overridden the colors of the CAD drawing, and we have red now. All right, so once that's done, go ahead and click on OK, and that's going to close out of that dialog box. And now you can see we are back to the main window, and our drawing is red. Okay, so now the second thing that I want to do is I want to fade this red out a little bit because it's kind of a little bit much. I just like it to be very subtle in the background so I can see what I'm working on, but I don't want it to be this prominent. So to do that, what I do is I click on my actual drawing, and you'll know that it's selected when it turns blue. Once that's selected, go ahead and right click, and you want to go here to where it says override graphics in view, and we can click on by element. Okay. All right, so now that is now we have clicked on that, we are now in this new window. The first thing I like to do is turn on halftone. When I do that and click apply, you can see what that does is it sort of fades it out a little bit. All right. Now you have other options in here to further override this, but halftone, really, that's the only thing we need to worry about here. And once that's done, just click on OK. And now you can see it's just a little bit less intense, and it's going to be a little bit easier for us to differentiate what we are working on as we go through. Okay, a couple more things we need to do before we start working on this. For one, every time I hover over this, you can see it wants to highlight, and that's going to be an issue going forward as we try to draw on top of this. Okay, so essentially what we're doing in this lab assignment is we are bringing in this CAD file as reference, and we are basically tracing it, okay, and we're putting Revit content over top of the CAD underlay. All right, this is a very common workflow that you will be doing in practice. All right, you might start a project out in CAD, and then you're going to have to bring it over at some point to Revit and convert it to a 3D project inside of Revit. And because in Revit you can take things a lot farther and you can work on your projects a lot easier. All right, so this is a very practical sort of assignment we're doing here. But we're going to need to modify this so that's a little bit easier for us to work on as we trace. So first of all, what I want to point out here is when you click on this, you'll see this little, this is what's known as a pin. Okay, you're actually seeing the top of like a thumbtack. All right, so if you think of a thumbtack on a tack board, you're seeing the top view of a thumbtack. And if you were to click on that, now you can see the side view of it, okay? The side view with the little X here is telling me that this object is not pinned in place. All right, so literally just think of this as I'm using a thumbtack and I'm pinning a piece of paper to a tack board. When I tack it on, I can't move it. All right, so if I were to tack that back on, you can see now it's tacked into it. I can click on this, and if I try to drag it around, I can't drag it and move it anywhere. All right, now if I untack it, and you can see that it's unpinned, I can click and I can drag that wherever I want, and I can release it. All right, so whenever you're working on a CAD drawing, if for some reason it comes in and it's untacked or unpinned, you want to pin it. All right. Another way to do that is if you click on this, up here in your ribbons panel, and you can see that my options change as I select an element. All right, up here I get a new window or a new panel on my tab, and you can see it says these are modify settings that are tied to this CAD drawing, so Lab 6 CAD underlay. Here are my typical things like move and offset, mirror, scale, rotate, all that kind of stuff. There are these two buttons right here though, unpin and pin. So right here does the same thing as actually clicking on this. If I were to click on unpin, you can see now when I select this, I can move it around and it's unpinned. If I were to click on the pin, it now becomes pinned, and you can see that the pin is now in the orientation where it's like locked in place. All right, now I can no longer move it. So you always want to make sure that your CAD underlays are pinned. All right, so if they're not, make sure they're pinned, and make sure you can't move them. All right, the next thing we want to do is disable this option to select it. All right, so if I were going in and trying to draw on top of this, this would constantly be highlighting blue, and it will constantly want to select whenever I click on it. To disable that, there's a button down here in the bottom right that says select pinned elements. All right, if you toggle this, you'll see now I have a little red X next to that pin there, so I can turn that on and off. You'll know that it's turned on when you get the red X. But now, if I try to highlight this and I go over top of it, I can't touch it anymore. I can't click on it. I can't move it around. That's what you want, because again, we're going to be tracing this, and we don't want it to constantly be popping up and interfering with what we're doing. All right. Okay, so now that you have that turned on and we can no longer click this and move it, this is what we essentially want. And we're going to be starting by adding in all these walls here to the project, okay? So the first thing I want to do is zoom in really close, and I want to measure the thickness of my walls so that I know what size walls I need to be putting in here. All right, so I'm going to go here to my architecture tab. Actually, here at the top, I have this measure between two references button. That also exists here inside of your ribbon. See if I can recall where that is located. Okay, it's under here under modify. If you were to go to modify, there is a measure between two references button right here. I like to just use it up here. This is what's known as the quick access toolbar. If you have that inside of here like I do, you can just click on it from there. So if I click on that, now what I can do is I can click on 2 points and I can measure between them. So if I were to click on this intersection here and then drag over here to the left and click on this, you can see it's giving me a dimension of 8 inches. So I know my wall thickness here is 8 inches. If I were to drag this down here and measure the thickness of this interior wall, you can see that this one is 5.5 inches, okay? Those should be the only 2 wall types we have inside of this project. So we know our exterior walls, we're going to have to draw all of those at 8 inches, and our interior walls, those are all going to be 5.5 inches. All right, so now with that information, we're going to go here to our architecture tab and click on the wall tool. All right, you can see here when I click on wall, by default, I have an 8-inch wall in the project already. All right, so if I were to click on this where it says basic wall, generic 8-inch, I get this flyout menu and I can see every single wall that is built into the project template. All right, remember back to the very beginning when we opened up our file and we selected a template? We selected architecture. The architecture template has all these ones in by default. So you can see we already have a generic 8-inch wall and we already have a interior 5.5-inch partition. All right, there's a lot of other ones in here as well, but those are the only two ones we're gonna have to worry about right now. We're just gonna choose this generic 8-inch wall for our exterior and make sure that is selected. And now we can go in and start drawing the actual walls in on top of this floor plan. All right, so a few things to note. When we are in our place wall setting here, you'll know that we are by the ribbon is green. We have this big green section, but we get all of these settings specific to the wall tool, okay? And you'll notice that you're in the wall tool here too because it says place wall. But we have all kinds of settings here like height and this unconnected one. We don't have to worry about that right now. But these are ways we can modify how the wall is being placed. What I'm worried about here is, well, actually, my wall height. I want to change the height of the wall. So I'm going to set this to like 10 feet, okay? Set to 10 feet and hit enter. And then second is this location line. All right, so what the location line does, if I were to hover over a portion of my wall here, you can see Revit is intelligent and it's looking at my CAD drawing and it's knowing basically what is a wall and what's not a wall. If I hover over the inside portion of a wall, you can see the boundary lines here highlight. What this wall center line does is it's going to draw the wall based on the center point of the wall. So if I were to just click anywhere inside of here and start dragging, you can see there is my wall that's being drawn, and it's being drawn from the center portion of the wall. Okay, so let me cancel that. That's just a small wall segment, and you can see there that it's been placed. If I were to do that again, but change this location line, you can see I have all these different options. So the ones that we need to worry about most are the wall center line and then the finish face interior and the finish face exterior. If I were to click on one of these two options like exterior, you can see now when I go to draw, I no longer, as I hover over this, am getting that dashed line that runs down the center portion of the wall. I can now basically just click on either side of this, okay? So if I were to click on the edge of the outside boundary of my exterior wall here and drag, you can see now my cursor, it's drawing the wall based on the exterior face, okay? It's no longer drawing it based on the center. Just to reiterate, if I were to switch that back to center, you can see now I get that inferred dashed line here in the middle, and my cursor is drawing it based on the center of the wall. Switching that back to finish face, interior or exterior, when I click on the interior or exterior face, you can see it's now drawing the line based on the edge of the wall, okay? So no longer the center. Either way you do it is fine, but it's kind of situational. So you're gonna find different use cases for each one, all right? So it really just depends. In this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to switch this back to my, actually no, I'm gonna leave it here as finish face exterior and show you a few more things because there's more functionality built into this. But to start out, I'm gonna click on this top right corner here, all right? I'm gonna drag this down here without clicking on anything to the bottom left corner. Now you can see from the preview, my wall is being drawn not on top of where it was originally, it's actually being drawn on the outside of where it needs to be. To fix that, I essentially need to flip it or mirror it over the axis line of my cursor. So you can see my axis line is this blue dash line. I'm going to leave my cursor hovered over this corner point. I'm going to click the space bar. All right. When I click space bar, that flips it. Right. You can flip it back and forth. You want to flip it so that it's directly on top of where it needs to be. So the existing wall in the CAD drawing. Once you have that where you want it to be, you just click on this purple square here in the corner. So that's going to tell us that we are snapped correctly to that corner intersection. And now from here, you can continue drawing to the right. All right. And as we do this, keep in mind, you want to draw in the entire portion of the wall. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, let me fill in this wall here. So I'm going to click right here on this intersection. I'm going to start dragging down here. Now you can see I've gotten to a window, okay? I would not want to click here and then draw another one in. And then add another one in. When I do that, it didn't cause a problem in this case. What I see a lot of students do is they will draw on a wall, okay, and then they'll get to a window and they will cancel the wall command and they will pick it back up on the other side of the window or door. You can do that with doors too. All right, so essentially it looks like this and the window is still there. You don't want to do that, and I'm going to show you why. Like I said in my introduction, as we are drawing in 2D in our floor plan view, we're also drawing in 3D, okay? Because Revit is a 3D program. So if I were to switch to a 3D view, this is essentially what we've done. We have added in our walls, but when I got here to the window and I drew around the window, you can see that there is just now no portion of the window, or there's no portion of wall there at all. In reality, that's not how it would be. So this will make more sense as we finish this exterior, but just keep in mind, as you draw in, you want to go all the way to the very corners of your wall intersections, all right? So I'm gonna go back to my level 1 view. Here is a tip. If you want to cycle between these tabs here without going up to them, the hotkey for that is holding Control and clicking the tab key. All right, now I'm automatically back to my level 1 floor plan. I'm going to go back here, I'm going to click on this wall, and I'm going to use my blue grips. So very similar to AutoCAD, I can click on this and modify it by using these blue grips and simply clicking and dragging and releasing. All right, now if I want to continue my wall command, I can just type WA. That'll take me back into the wall command, and I can pick up from where I started last, okay? So I'm going to click on this outside corner. Again, it's on the wrong side of the wall, so I'm going to click on the space bar to flip that, and I'm going to click on this intersection here. Now, as I do this, you can also see that these intersections automatically clean themselves up. So we don't get any of this weird overlapping that you're seeing here. Once you complete the command and click on an intersection, it's automatically cleaning itself up at those intersections. So I'm just going to continue. I'm going to go around and do the entire exterior here. All right. And then all the way back to the very beginning where I started. All right, now when that's done, I'm just going to click Escape, and you can see I have the entire exterior wall of this floor plan complete. Go back to my 3D view, and you can see there is my exterior wall all drawn in. All right. Now, the second part of this is adding in our interior walls, okay? So if you remember, the interior walls were 5.5 inches. So if we go back to my wall command, click on my wall type. Okay, so my wall type is now set to 8 inches. If I go down and I select my interior 5.5 inch partition, I can now go in and start drawing in my interior walls. Now in this case, I'm going to switch my location line to the wall center line, make sure that is selected, just to change things up and show you how that works. So as you're doing this, obviously you want to make sure that you are finding the midpoint between the outer boundaries of the wall. So all these little lines you were seeing through here, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to this wall. Those are all the individual layers that are building up that wall, okay? So for example, one side might be gypsum wallboard, and then you'll have like maybe insulation or something. But those are just the individual layers of the wall that are making up the wall. So you want to make sure if you're using the wall center line, if you have multiple layers like this, that it's always drawing the center line between the outermost two layers of the wall, okay? So in this case, this is what you want. These two outermost layers are blue. Then I just want to click on this point here where it intersects with the exterior wall, and I can click and I can drag and I can start drawing. So as I said with the windows, same thing as with the doors. You want to draw all the way through the door openings, and you want to draw until you get to here where your next segment of wall is being inferred with the blue dashed lines. So at this point I'm going to click, I'm going to drag down until I get to my intersection here. And it really doesn't matter where you click. If you click on the inside face or in the center, it's automatically going to clean itself up and look correct. So if I click here in the middle, you can see that looks how I need it to. All right, same thing for this wall here. Then we'll do this one. All right. Now this one is actually in the wrong spot. It actually needs to be moved, and you can see that it's slightly off. To correct mistakes like this, what we want to do is select our wall, and then we have this tool here that's called the Align tool. All right, there's multiple ways we can fix this, but one of the best ways is the Align tool. So if I were to click on the Align tool here, once that's selected, my wall becomes deselected. Now I want to select two lines to establish my alignment point, basically, okay? If you look down here at the bottom left, you can see it says, please select line or point reference for alignment. All right, so this is basically, you want to select the line where you want your object to move to. So I want this face of my wall to move right here where this red line is. So first I'm going to click on the red line. Once I do that, down here in the bottom, it says, please select an entity to align. It will move into alignment with the reference. Okay, so you can see once I clicked on my first line, I now get this reference, this blue dash reference line that's showing. The next thing is to click on the actual face of the wall, and that's going to nudge it over and put it in the exact spot as the first line that I clicked, okay? If I were to do that with any other line, for example, this door, I could do it again, click on there, and it's going to push it over into that area there, all right? But that's how we use it. So if I were to click on this face here, and then click on this face of the wall here, that's going to put it where I need it. All right, the alignment tool, very good tool for doing that. Another way you could do that is, for example, using the move tool. So if I were to click on my wall, I can go up here to the move tool. Next, I would click on a base point for where I want to move. So if I were to click on this corner, for example, as my base point, I can move over to the corner here on the CAD drawing and click, and that's going to move it to the correct spot. All right, so let's continue with our walls. All right, I'm going to start a new wall portion up here. And you can see I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the correct alignment. So in this case, I might want to switch over to a finished face setting. So I'm going to click here on this corner, and you can see now I'm aligned properly. Drag this all the way through, and we can stop it basically anywhere inside this wall. So I'm just going to stop it right there. And then I'm going to do this wall here. Again, it's on the wrong side, so I'm going to click spacebar to flip it. And then I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to go down here and do this wall. Flip it again, all the way to this corner. And then I'm going to drag this one down until it intersects with my exterior wall. Okay, so now all of my walls are added into the project. And if I go back to my 3D view, you can see here that we now have interior walls inside of this building. All right. Next, what we have to do is add in our doors and our windows. Okay, so to do the doors, we have our door tool right here. If I were to click on the door tool, you can see we have some doors that are in here by default. All right, so if I were to click, we have this one that's called a single flush door, and we have a bunch of different sizes of doors too. All right, so for example, if I were to click on one of these and just place it, you can see now, let me put this in a spot where there's no window so that doesn't mess me up. All right, so you can see now I have this door that's in here. If I want to modify the size of that door, I could click on it and choose one of these other ones. And you can see as I do that, the door gets bigger, right? So that's pretty cool. So basically what I want to do is go in here and measure the door to know how big it needs to be. So to measure the door correctly, I have to use my measure tool, click on the exterior side of the door here, and drag down until I hit the intersection of that arc. All right, so when I do that, I can see that 3 foot and some change. This is going to be a 3 foot wide door, so I want to find one that is 36 inches in width. All right, so I'm going to click on my door command again. Now I'm going to go down through my menu, and let's do this one here at the bottom, 36 inches by 84 inches. Click on that, and now you can see as we hover over our wall, the door wants to appear. If I hover toward this face of the wall, the door wants to appear on that side. If I hover over this face of the wall, the door wants to appear on the interior side. Another thing is, if I were to hover over a face and then click on the space bar, it's going to flip it back and forth. Okay, so that's how you want to go in here and start putting them in the correct orientation, is hover over your wall and then click the space bar to get it in relatively the correct spot. You just want to get these close, and if I were to get it something like this, it looks close, but usually it's not perfect. It's not the perfect spot that you want it. So what I like to do is just put them relatively close to where they need to go, and then later on I will go back in and manually align them. Okay, so for example, if I click escape a couple times to exit the door command, I now want to click on my door, use my align tool, click on this face of the door in the CAD drawing, and then click on this face of my actual door, and that's going to align it correctly. All right, so that is basically what we're doing going around here, and I'm just going to do a couple of these, and I'm going to expect you to go in and do all the rest on your own. All right, so let's do this door now. This one is going to be also a 3 foot door. Something that we can do is we can actually right click on this door. No, it's not right click. If we select a door and we use the command CS, so CS, that is short for create similar. All right, that is going to basically make a new object that's exactly like the object we have selected. So that's one way you can do it. And I'm going to get this one close to where it needs to go out, and then align to get this in the right spot. All right, so this one, for example, now let's measure this door. This door is a 2'6", okay, so that one is a different size. I'm going to go to architecture, I'm going to go to door, and then I'm going to find a 2'6". Okay, so 2'6" is going to be 30 inches. Okay, so if I were to click on that 30-inch door and then get it close and then do my alignment again, there we go. That's in the right spot. Okay, that should be pretty self-explanatory for the rest of these single doors. But what about these double doors? You can see here we have a double door. If I were to go in here to my doors, click on the drop down, I don't have a double door in this project, okay? The thing that you don't want to do, if I were to measure this, this is a 3 foot door. It's very tempting to do this, okay? Create a new door here and a new door here and align them. Okay, that looks correct, but that's really not how you want to go about doing this. And the reason for that is it just does weird things. For example, if I go to the 3D view, you can see now that is very weird because I have 2 actual doors in here, and that is not what we want. We have this is the door casing. If I were to switch to a colored or a shaded view, you can see that is not what you would want in reality, because would essentially just be two big doors that you're opening outward, and you don't want like a door casing like that. So to fix that, we actually have to bring in a specially built door type into the project that is not there already. All right, so this is how we do that. We want to go here to our Insert tab, and we want to go here to where it says Load Family. Okay, everything that we are putting in here up until now is a family. So a door, this is a door family. This is a single flush door family. The walls, those are their own type of family. Anything inside of Revit is its own family. All right, you just got to get used to that word. Family is what you call components inside of Revit. So again, going to my Insert tab, if I click on Load Family, that's going to take me to this Load Family dialog box, and we want to be here where it says US Imperial. This is a library of families that comes built into Revit, okay? These are all pre-made ones. They're just generic ones that Autodesk, the makers of Revit, have added into the program for you to use in your projects. And they're basically just a starting point, okay? So if you just need something simple and generic for your project, you can turn to this library and bring things in automatically, and there's not a lot of effort in terms of tracking something down. If you need something more specific, you're going to have to go online to a manufacturer's website and download their own families for an object. For example, if I wanted like a very specific table or chair from a manufacturer like Herman Miller or like Steelcase, I would want to go to their website and download their family and insert into my project. But in our case, and a lot of the times for simpler things like doors and stuff, you can just use this library that comes with Revit by default. Again, if you don't have this, what I'm showing here, if this doesn't come up, refer back to my first video where I introduced Revit and follow the instructions to install this, because you need it. All right. So what we want to do here is now go to our doors folder. And if we look through our door options, you can see we have a couple options here for double doors. Right now what we have in here is a door single flush panel, but there's also a door double flush panel. If we click on that, we get a preview of it up here in the top right. And you can see, looking at the preview, this is what we want. We have our door casing going around both doors, and it's not going to create that weird overlap in the middle. All right, so I'm going to click on that and then click on Open. The next thing that we have here is a Specify Types menu. So this door family comes with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sizes pre-built, okay? So let's say we only needed, 1 or 2 sizes. What you could do is go in here and then click on a couple of them by holding Control, and then click on OK, and it's only going to bring in those 2 sizes for us to use. If we need all of them, we could click on one, hold Shift, and then click on the bottom. And when they're all highlighted, click on OK. That's going to bring in all of them. The reason you might not want to bring all of these sizes in is because it adds more data to your project file, and Revit projects can get really huge and take up a lot of space and get laggy and bogged down. So really you want to be efficient and only bring in the sizes you know that you'll need. In this case, this is a small project. I don't know exactly what size we'll need. I guess we would need 72 inch since we have 2 of these. So I guess we could just bring in the 72 by 84. So that's a 6 foot by 7 foot. That'd be fine. If you wanted to, you could bring in like all of them though. But I'm just going to bring in this one here at the bottom, 72 by 84. Click on OK. And now if I go to my Architecture tab and my Door command, you'll see that that now appears in the menu here. And when I click on the drop down, that 72 by 84 is the only size option I have. So if I click on that now to place it and I hover over, you can see now it wants to place the double door in the right spot. And Revit is intelligent in the sense that it knows what the center of a wall is. So here you can see those two dimensions there at the bottom, those two 7-foot dimensions. When those are equal, you know that you're in the middle of your wall. So in this case, I know that the door needs to be centered. As long as I have this in that spot where those two 7-inch dimensions are matching, I can just click and I know that it's in the correct position, and I don't have to go back later and manually align them. All right, so same thing for these ones. This one is centered now, and then this one is also centered. So there we go, easy as that. And if I go to my 3D view, those are now in the correct positions. All right. This one doesn't have the door frame on it, it looks like. Let me see if we can turn that on. If you go down here to the bottom left, if you're in a 3D view and you want to look at this, and you want that door casing to show just like the other doors, you just want to go to your detail level right here and switch that from medium to fine, and that is going to appear. Again, if you switch that back, that just gives you a little bit less detail and you don't see what's going on. But let's go back to the level 1 floor plan. And now that's going to end it for the doors for me. I want you to go in now and finish all the rest of these doors. I'm going to move on now to the windows. All right. So to add in our windows, obviously there's windows under these walls. If I click on my wall and I look through it, you can see I have a few windows here that we cannot see by default because the wall is blocking them. To add those in, we want to see where they are. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to click on one of my walls and then right click, and I'm going to override the settings of the wall so that I can see through it. Okay. So if I go here to now override graphics and view, I want to click on by category. Okay, so the by element setting, which is what we use for our floor plan to make this the halftone and fade it out, that will control the override on an element by element basis. So in other words, it would only control this single wall here. If I were to change something about it, if I were to make it see-through, it would only happen to this wall here. The by category option is going to override anything that's a wall throughout the entire view, okay, throughout the entire floor plan view that I'm looking at. So the same goes for like doors or windows. Anything that is that same category is going to be changed in the view. So I'm going to click on by category. And now what I want to do is go here to the section where it says surface transparency. And I want to turn that up slightly. Maybe like, let's see, let's do like 75, see what that does. Click apply. All right, and as you do that, you can see now the actual surface of the wall is transparent, and I can see through it, and I can see where my windows need to be placed. All right, so then I can click on OK, and that's going to save that. All right, so now that we can see where our windows go, what we need to do is go here and use our window tool. So the window tool is very similar to the door tool, where you just hover over the wall. And if you're hovered over the wall, the closer that you put the cursor to one side or the other is going to determine the placement of the window. So you can see as I do that, it flips back and forth. Okay. What I need to do is measure this to get the correct size of the window. So I'm going to measure from this outside line to this outside line. And you can see that is a 2-foot window. So I'm going to go back to my window tool. I'm going to switch my window size by clicking on the drop down. I'm going to find a 2-foot window. All right, so let's just do this one. Let's try this one here, 24 by 48. And then let's get it relatively close to where it needs to go, and then click. And what I'm going to do is just go around and do all of these and then manually go back and align them after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to go around, get them relatively close to where they need to go. Just going to do a couple on each wall. Again, go in and do all of them on your own. Let's do all these here and all these ones here. Okay, so now those are relatively close to where they need to go. and all I have to do is use my align tool. So shortcut for that is actually just doing AL. If I type AL, my align tool comes up, and I want to click on the top part of my window on the AutoCAD drawing, and then click on the top part of the window in Revit, and that is now in the right spot. You can just use this and just keep moving on to all of them. So top part of the window, top part of the window. Just go around and do all of them. Okay, so now if I were to go back to my 3D view, you can see now I have windows that are inside of the wall. All right, so that's why it's important to draw your walls going all the way through the windows, because we're essentially inserting doors and walls into the windows, okay? Or, I'm sorry, we're inserting doors and windows into the walls, okay? So we want the entire wall to be there, and then we're basically taking a knife essentially and cutting our opening into the wall and putting the window into it. All right, we're not building the wall around the window. We're putting the window into the wall after the wall is already built. All right, so to show you this in 3D, if I were to click on window here, you can see as I hover over portions of this wall and then click, it's just inserting them, all right? And you wouldn't have it like that if it were not the whole portion of the wall. All right. Another thing is you could draw all this in 3D if you wanted and then go back to the floor plan. The only issue is it's going to mess with the heights here. But if you want to model stuff in 3D, that is also an option. So for example, if I were to do my doors, if I like working on like doors and stuff in 3D, I can toggle to a 3D view. I can switch to my correct door size. And then I could put one here on the face of the wall. And then when it's close to where I want it, just go to my floor plan to get that in the correct position. So now I can just align this here. And let's delete that window. And then if I go back to my 3D view, that's now in the correct position. All right, so you can work in 3D view just as easily as you can work in the orthographic views here. All right, so there is one last portion of this assignment. And what we're going to be doing is creating a custom family that's going to represent essentially like a grandfather clock inside of the floor plan of this house, okay? So what we need to do to create our own custom family inside of this project is go up here to the architecture tab, and then right here where it says component, click on this drop down here, and then click on this section that says model in place. All right, if you hover over that, it's going to give you some description of what this does. Basically, you can create your own custom models or components, 3D models, inside the Revit project, okay? So I'm going to click on model in place, and then here we have to associate a category to our model. And categories, we'll get into that later on, but for this, we're just going to find the generic model category and then click on OK. This one now where it says add a name, I'm going to name this grandfather clock. All right, and I'm not making this up, by the way. This is from a real assignment that I am adapting for our purposes. Okay, so now what we want to do when we are inside of this, we want to go over here to the make sure that we're on our Modify, Create Extrusion tab here at the top. And actually, let me redo this. I want to make sure that I am doing it correctly, that I didn't mess something up. All right, so I'm going to just start that again, model in place, and then generic models, grandfather. Okay, this is what we want. So when we start this, we will have this create tab by default. What we want to do is start adding some 3D shapes in here. So what we're going to do is there's all these different options for 3D shapes. We're just going to do a simple extrusion, okay? This is basically drawing just a very basic 3D box shape. All right, so I'm going to click on extrusion. And now what we have to do is basically sketch out some lines as we would do inside of AutoCAD, okay? So coming over here to this part of the floor plan, just really anywhere, start by clicking once and then drawing a line. And this first line we're going to draw is going to be 1 foot 4 inches. So you can basically just drag your cursor until it says the right thing. Or at this point, just like in AutoCAD, we can type in 1 foot 4 inches, hit enter, and that's going to draw at the right distance. Now, coming over here to the right, draw a line in that's 1 foot. Come back up here another 1 foot 4 inches, and then finish it off by clicking at the beginning. All right. Now we have a shape that's drawn in here, and it's a perfect rectangle. Make sure all of your intersections are connected properly. This isn't going to work if for some reason you have something like this where you have a boundary that is extending beyond. All these have to be like perfectly aligned with one another at the intersections, okay? So you want to avoid like weird things like that, or avoid little gaps at the corners. All right. Once you have your box that's 1 foot by 1 foot 4, go over here to the left side where it says extrusion start and extrusion end. Make sure extrusion start is set at 0 and extrusion end is set at 6 inches. Okay, this is essentially telling Revit that when it makes this 3D box shape to make it 6 inches tall. So it's going to start at the floor and it's going to come up 6 inches off of the floor. All right, so once that's done, go ahead and click on the green check mark, and that adds that in. All right, so next we're going to add a small little portion on top of this. So if I were to go to the 3D view right now and view this, you can see this is what we have so far. We've drawn a small little box that's 6 inches high. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a portion on top of this. And this one I'm going to actually show you how to do this in 3D because I find working in 3D inside of Revit just a little bit easier. Okay, so if I were in my 2D mode, something you can do to isolate this in your 3D view to make it easier to work on is go here and then let me see if I can find it. All right, I'm just going to go here and then I'm going to click on Finish Model really quick. And then once I do that, I'm going to click on my shape once I'm out of this editor. All right, now what I want to do is come up here under this view setting, and I want to click on this option here that says Selection Box. When I click on that, it's going to take me to a 3D view of my shape, okay, with this little box that's around it. This I just want to click on and extend upward because we're going to be adding more on top of this, and this is basically like a crop, okay? Now what I'm going to do is click on this. I'm going to right click on it and then I'm going to click on Hide in View Elements to get rid of that. And then I'm going to click on this little level indicator that I have here. Same thing, click on it, right click, and then choose Hide in View Elements. Okay, so now I have a 3D view that has that little base thing just isolated. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to select it and then click on Edit in Place to return to my editor so I can keep adding to this shape, okay? So now I can see I'm in my edit mode because I have my two little options here, my green check mark and my red X. I'm going to go over here to the Create tab, and now we're back to our 3D drawing tools. So next we're going to add in one more extrusion. So we're going to click on the extrusion tool, and we want to add an extrusion here on top of this original shape, okay? So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to my work plane setting. I'm going to click on this option here that says Set Work Plane, all right? Click on that, and then it's going to take me to this dialog box, and here I want to click on Pick a Plane. So I'm going to click on Pick a Plane, and now I'm going to click on this top plane here on top of the box. All right, so basically what this is going to do is it's telling Revit, once I click on this, start drawing my new shape on top of the box and not from the floor. Okay, otherwise it would start drawing my new shape from down here on the floor at the very bottom. So I want to click on the top face of the box, and now my work plane is set to that face. All right, so now that that's done, we're going to start drawing in our new shape. So I'm going to click on this rectangle tool here, and I'm just going to select two different sides, opposite corners of this box, like that. So now you can see I have pink lines that are overlapping with the boundary lines of my box. The next thing we want to do is offset these lines, all these lines inward by 2 inches, okay? So here I'm going to go to my offset tool. I want to change my offset distance right here to 2 inches, and I want to turn off this copy option, okay? If I were to leave that on, what it's going to do is basically create a duplicate. See how there's now 2 lines there? I'm going to undo that, and I want to turn off copy. And now if I do that, you can see it basically just moves that line inward 2 inches. So make sure copy is off. And now what you want to do is hover over just one of these lines. And you can see as you hover over, you get a blue preview line of where that's going to go. Whether you're inside it or outside it is where it's going to offset it. So if I were to click there, it offsets it outward. If I click in there, it offsets it inward. Hover over one of these. Make sure that it's facing inward, your preview line. Then click the Tab key. That's going to cycle through another option you have, and it's going to do all of the lines at the same time. It basically chains them together. And now if I click once on my cursor or on my mouse, you can see it does them all at the same time. Okay? So now with that done, I am going to just click OK to finish editing it. And you can see once I've clicked OK, it adds a new 6-inch tall shape on top of my original shape, okay? So here's the base, and here is the rest of my grandfather clock. Obviously, this is way too short. We're gonna have to have something a little bit higher. So I'm gonna set my extrusion end height to be 5 feet, all right? So go here to where it says extrusion end, type in 5 foot, hit enter, and then you can see now it extends that up and it's the correct height. So this is a very basic representation of what an actual grandfather clock would look like. Obviously, this doesn't really look like one, but this just illustrates the point of how we can go in and start adding some very basic custom 3D elements into our drawings, okay? So once that's done, just click on Finish Model. All right, and then we can go back to our level 1 view, and you can see that it is now there showing in the viewport. All right, let me close out of that, and then actually you can see now we have this isolated, and we're going to want to unisolate that to get back to our original 3D view. All right, so if you want to return to the normal 3D view and see the entire building again, all you have to do is, with nothing selected, making sure you're in your 3D view, go over here to the left, scroll down to where you get to this extent section. Right here where it says section box, uncheck that and then click on apply, and that's going to bring everything back. All right, so now you can see the actual clock in the full context of the rest of the house. All right, I'm going to switch back to my floor plan, and now do one final thing here and then leave the rest up to you. I'm going to draw a very basic floor here that goes underneath the entire building. So to do that, come here to my architecture tab, go here to floor, click on that, and then we're just going to leave this as floor generic 12 inches. Okay? Now what I want to do is, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can do this by using this pick lines tool. So if I were to click on that, you can basically click on the boundaries of each of these walls, and you can go around and click all of them until you get the floor boundary. Another thing you could do is, selecting that, you could hover over and click the tab key to get all the walls at the same time. So if I do that a few times, you can see here all the walls, and if you click, you can see we are getting this pink preview line showing up underneath of all the walls. But we need this to extend all the way to the edge here, okay? So right now they're in the center line of the walls. We actually have to get these to the outside of the walls. So we can change this little offset option here to 4 inches, since we know this is an 8-inch thick wall. So if I switch that to 4 inches and hit enter, and then I try that again, so I'm going to undo what I just did. Oh. So set that to 4 inches. All right, just tab. There we go. Tab until you get all of your walls, and then when you have it like that, you can just click once, and now you can see the wall boundary, or I'm sorry, the floor boundary is following the exterior face of all these walls, just how we want it. When that's done, you can just click on OK, and if you go to a 3D view now, you can see there is a floor underneath of all of our walls where there wasn't beforehand. Another thing about just these drawing modes, and we're going to get into this a little bit more later on, but whenever we create elements like floors and walls, we basically are defining a boundary, right? So the boundary editing is inside what's called a sketch mode. So you can see right here, if I hover over this after I selected the wall, it says modifies an element in sketch mode. So if I click on edit boundary, it takes me back to the sketch mode, which is just this magenta outline, okay? And we can basically modify the boundary however we want, and then when we click the green check mark, it updates, right? You can see now that my floor boundary is pulled back a little bit. Another thing I can do here inside of my edit mode, if I go back to my floor plan view, is you can actually add in cutouts anywhere you want. So for example, if I were to put like a circle cutout inside of here, and then click OK, you can see when I go to a 3D view, now there is a big cutout inside of my floor here. All right, and you can basically add in as many of those as you want. You just have to make sure that when you're editing the boundaries, they are solid or completely filled in shapes. So like this would work, for example, but you know, obviously this would not work because it's not a finished shape. If I were to go in here and click on finish edit mode, it's going to give me an error and tell me where I need to complete that, right? But if I were just to do that, for example, and then click on the green check mark, you can see there it's added in those little holes in the floor. Now, why would we want to use this? Well, the reason we want to use this is because we might want to, we will have different floor types throughout our project. So for example, all these bedrooms might be carpeting, and maybe this middle area is tile, for example. So if I were to just isolate my floor, let me redraw this really quick. If I were to isolate my floor to just this middle part, I'm just going to draw on all these lines manually. All right, so there's my my hallway area. So this one could be one type of a floor. Let's say I have a floor type, and it's not, I don't have one in here right now. Okay, there's a ceramic tile one. If I click on that, and then I go here, you can see here I have a ceramic tile floor in here now in my main area of the house. Then I could go in here to like one of these bedrooms, create a new floor, and we're just going to leave this one. Let's do the wood finish, okay? So this one can be a wooden floor in here. So now I can add in a floor inside of this room, and we can add in this part. You can see it when I'm in the sketch mode. See how this line is going all the way through, but I also have these 3 lines here. I need to basically remove this middle portion of the line. And to do that, I basically have to split this in half. If you click a piece of line like this, and you go up here to the split element tool, there is a split element and then split element with gap. If you just click on split element and then you come down here, you get this little X-Acto knife tool. You just click on an area in the middle of where you want this to split in half. So I can click there. And now if I click escape, I have 2 individual line segments that I can pull back like that. Okay, but now if I were to click on the green check mark to finish this floor, and I go back to my 3D view, you can see here I have a wooden floor in this bedroom, and out here I have a tile floor. So that's why you'd want to draw like multiple different floors, okay? But basically all I want you to do is what I did originally. Just go in here, go to your level 1 floor plan, create a new floor, set your offset to 4 inches. You can choose any floor type you want. If you want it to be just this generic one, or if you want to do like the wood floor, that's fine. And then using your pick lines tool right here, or you can manually draw this in if you want. You could go around and do every single corner. The pick lines tool I like because you can just hover over one part of the wall and just tab a few times, and if you have your offset set correctly, that will automatically draw this in for you the right way. Oh, come on. It can be finicky. There we go. When you get it like this, just click, and you can see now it's added in my boundary like I want. Then just click the green check. That will add in the floor, and then you can confirm that it looks right by going to a 3D view and just kind of holding the shift key and middle mouse button and orbiting around. Okay? So that's going to be the lab assignment for this week. Just finish adding in your doors and windows. Okay, make sure you have the clock here, and then make sure you have the floor. All right, so I want every single thing that you're seeing here, plus all the extra doors and windows. All right. What you're going to be submitting to me is the floor plan like you're seeing here. I want to be able to see this transparency so that I can see that you have the CAD underlay in there correctly. So I'll be able to tell that just looking through your walls, being able to see just a colored background for your CAD drawing. And then I want to see all these elements in here. So I want a full screenshot of it like this. All right, just this view, level 1 floor plan, once everything is in here. And then I want you to upload your actual Revit project files as well. All right, so what you're going to do is go here to File, Save As, and then Project. Go ahead and save that to a folder, so like Lab 6, and then your name. Another thing you want to do is go in here to Options, and where it says maximum backups, turn that to just like 1. Trust me, it'll make your life a lot better. You'll see that when you go in here and you save Revit projects, it'll create all these multiple versions of this file, and you want to limit that. Those are basically backups to save you in case you lose your project. So turn this down to like 1. All right, and then click OK, and you'll always have 1 duplicate of the file in case you lose the original for some reason. But go ahead and save that. And then one final thing, all right, we're going to add our name in here. I want to see your name in the viewport just like you've done with other assignments. Go here to the text tool, so go up here to Annotate, choose Text, click and drag and create a text window, and then add in your name. Click on Close when you're done. And then just position this somewhere where I can see it, okay? You can put it up here if you want, that's fine. Just make sure that you have your name present on the screen inside of Revit, okay, using the text tool. And that will be it. So again, this is what I want totally completed. Make sure you have the little clock thing in here too. do a full screenshot of the Revit window, and then also upload your Revit project file itself. All right, so that's going to do it for this week, and let me know if you have any questions.